the cost of data is always the bottleneck, right? Like data is gold. And if you're trying to build a very large project, your biggest upfront cost, or rather your biggest operational expense, is going to be the data. And I don't see that changing maybe ever, unless maybe would you consider the having to update your graphics cards on a regular basis be an operational cost? Like I would consider that capex, because you're going to buy an N100 and probably sit on that for a while, at least a fiscal year, right? It's not going to be worth it to have to replace those things a lot. So like data is still going to be the operational cost to end all operational costs.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, compute units are what most of your budget is probably going to be factored into trying to calculate. Because no matter what your environment, no matter what your hardware, no matter what you're running on or what your end goal is, all of this costs compute. You got to spend CPU cycles, you got to spend GPU cycles, you have to have a place to store that data, and you have to have a way to transmit that data, and you have to have a way to transform that data. And those are all the pieces that have to be considered when you're building into your decentralized stack, or your free speech tech stack, as I like to call that. And so looking around at providers that can work together to help in that goal, I think, is one way to help minimize some of the cost. If you're using storage for your decentralized storage, and you're using a cache for compute or GPU, and you're using Graph to build custom views across some of the data that you're looking at. Maybe you're using Aver or BitTensor to do decentralized LLM requests, and you're using Pocket to serve all that up to both acquire the data and distribute it back out to your users. I think that you are potentially going to be able to use some economies of hybrid scale, moving back and forth between tokenized networks, to come out a little cheaper than what you'll probably run into using some of the major centralized providers. The trade-off for them, obviously, is value add with the ability to guarantee a high SLA and guarantee certain QoSs. But if you're building out in the space and you're working on next level technology now, you can take advantage of these things in the smaller scale without the larger commitments, and get a lot of things running without ever needing to, raise capital, for instance. And I think DeepSeek is just as a product by itself, is a really great example of this, where they looked around at what a lot of the centralized providers of LLM services had done. They looked at some of the successes of smaller swarm type providers like, Llama 2, and they built something that was capable of standing alongside the big boys for a fraction of the cost, and can be run extremely cheaply. And it opens up things like OpenAI to users who would never have been able to afford an annual subscription to that. I think those are great examples of what's possible and what will be necessary in the future. Our next generation of entrepreneurs who are coming out this year and in the coming decade are going to rely on these sorts of environments to be able to operate, because everything just keeps getting more expensive.